And I think truly in this country we are blue in the face when it comes to legislation. So many of them, but we don't implement them. Let me just hear from Okongo Homogeni, or we begin with Shakil Shaber.
Yes,
let's begin with you.
Start with us because
yes.
Start with us because they're the ones who went and messed it up.
It began in the National Assembly.
Yes.
Went to the Senate. It was mutilated in the Senate.
Yes. Oh, no,
yeah.
Let's go to the background.
We go to the background.
Start the background.
Yes.
In 2022, just towards the end of the before the end of that term, there was a threat of blacklisting. Grey listing was already there, and blacklisting was falling up because the advocates refused to abide by the financial requirements of giving information about possible financial transactions that may have questionable resources. I remember that in the parliament it really went haywire. I represent APNAC, the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption. I'm the chair. This young man here is our secretary.
Oh,
I remember 2022. This is by chance that you've called us both here.
Coincidence.
In 2022.
There was no memo.
No, in 2022.
Yes.
I spoke to the President Uhuru Kenyatta just before the elections. We had to go to Egypt, and they were going to blacklist us. And a very quick bill was passed stopping that blacklisting. We went into grey listing. So who grey listed us? The Financial Action Task Force, the United Nations, the international one. There is also the East and Southern African anti-laundering group. It started there. We were grey listed. So after the 2022 election, this was to be resorted out. So when the bill came in 2024 or 2025, I remember, the National Assembly came up with the bill. And APNAC was a player in this, and we were advising certain issues and giving and lobbied for certain things, which not all of them did the National Assembly, JLAC, actually cover. But in essence, it covered the issue of conflict of interest as seen by the global world in the financial system. Because if you do not match with them, they grey list you, your loans are affected, everything is affected. So we looked at that particular proposal, and we were fairly confident that the bill as proposed by the National Assembly would be able to tackle the concerns of the international organizations. What happened actually on the 23rd of February 2024, as we were working on this, the listing was announced. First, it was not announced in 2022. By 2024, the 23rd of February, the listing of grey listing was announced. We raised this the concern. As APNAC, we raised this with the ruling party, the opposition party, and all others, including this what we call sniping against the anti-corruption law. So one of the sniping was with Honorable Ruko. He tried to make some amendments in the anti-corruption law. We had to fight that one. Kaluma as well, Mheshimiwa Kaluma. We had to go to the opposition party, to Raila Odinga and others, to tell them to step down.
The procurement clauses, isn't it?
That's right. Yes. No, it's all part and parcel of the anti-corruption. So even Ruko, the Honorable Ruku.
Yes.
Yes, we wrote to the DP, we wrote to the ruling party, we wrote to the president. This is APNAC. So when this thing happened, we went back to JLAC. JLAC says, we did everything we could. But Senate, these lawyers of Senate, have found out ways to cut it down. So we, APNAC, of which covers Senate as well as the National Assembly, we made an appeal to the Senate. They totally ignored us, not even bothered to call us in. As a result of their, what you call, amendments, they dismembered the whole thing. Now the situation, we came back. We then wrote to the President, APNAC. And today, I wish I'd known it, we were going to talk about it. I have a letter from State House confirming that we wrote to them and confirming that based upon certain information that the President got, including our letters and our stand, he has vetoed this thing. So we are very pleased that the President has recognized APNAC as African Parliamentarians Against Corruption, has recognized the action that took place within the National Assembly.
Thank you.
And has also recognized that Senate has gone out of its way to dismantle all the anti-corruption laws because of the weak supervision that they have among themselves as advocates.
Right.
And if you look at the people who actually made presentations in the Senate at the time of this conflict of interest, they were all lawyers.
They're all lawyers.
They were all lawyers. I don't want to mention the
including our senior counsel here. All right, we'll cross over to him momentarily.
And they were saying,
yes.
Oh, there are other laws. And I said to them, hold on, even in the 10 Commandments, there are other laws covering some of these things, but they are the 10 Commandments. That doesn't mean by repetition of that particular thing that we should do this law and that law. They didn't listen to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Before I come to you, Bernard, let me just also extend a hearty welcome to Dr. Nikal. Thank you for joining us. Right, I know you're just fresh from Parliament. Kenyans should know that truly we have legislators who really work hard. Given at this time is when you're coming from, the committee meeting.
We finished, no.
It was what?
Plenary.
It's a plenary.
We finished at 9.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You finished at 9. It's been a long day. Yeah. It's good to see you.
Thanks.
Right? I hope fatigue has not broken you. Yes?
We left earlier, allowing him to take that.
Yeah, we will cross over to you at least also so you can give us an update on what is happening on your docket as well. But let me just hear from Bernard here. Given that, yes, I don't know why you're supposed to be a bicameral parliament. Yeah, so we have concurrence on this legislation sometimes. I don't know what the members of parliament missed that the senators now took this particular bill and mutilated it the way it is. Totally. And now that we're being told it was a particular intent of the lawyers.
Yes.
Senior counsel included? I don't know. He'll defend himself. Let's just hear from
So, in my view, first of all, I wanted to say, Debal, on the last conversation that we had regarding the IEBC, I want all Kenyans to support those leaders who will be coming in as commissioners. Let's not politicize too much, but always let's be keen about it, but let's support. On this matter of the conflict of interest bill, it so happens that when I got into parliament as a young leader, one of the things that I think I was tired about is the issue of corruption in our country. And any effort to try and make sure that resources that are taxes that are collected from people, resources that are collected from the public, is actually utilized for the right cause, for the right purposes. And so one of the caucuses that I found in Parliament, that interestingly actually, we have a lot of young parliamentarians who have a keen focus to have the right things being done in our country, is called African Parliamentarian Network Against Corruption. One of our key mandates is to make sure that we give a lot of focus on bills that we can be able to propose or give a contribution that will go further to fight corruption or stifle corruption or avenues of corruption. And that is why some of the bills that then came along our way is this one. The main one is the conflict of interest bill. There is the anti-money laundering bill. And of course, the terrorism bill. So anti-money laundering bill is something that we wanted to really give a lot of support to it so that any illicit flows that comes along our country, we are able, through whatever laws that are robust, we are able to manage it. Now, on this particular one about the conflict of interest bill, it tells you how the President of the Republic of Kenya right now is taking seriously the fight against corruption. As rightfully the chairman has said, I am one of the young parliamentarians, but in my robust participation in this caucus, I got an opportunity to be elected as the Secretary General. And therefore, for these 12 clauses that the President has been able to propose, I can tell you, they are radical. This is one of the things, in my view, I know lawyers will have a different perspective. Of course, we had even a conversation with Senator here. But in our view, we can have all these many laws, but it's still good to have very tightened laws so that we can be able to nap. And of course, the goodwill now that is coming out from many of us, the parliamentarians, and those, of course, that are in executive. Take a case scenario, very simple things. Number one, like clause 2, the definitions that had been, removed out, like who is family? Who is a relative? Because these are the kind of people that when you do business, you can actually hide your wealth or the money that you've gotten out of that conflicting position where you are, you can actually hide in them. So the definitions was vague, but with this one, it has now been tightened to explain exactly who is a family. So anybody within your family line that tends to benefit from your position of interest, from your position where you are in as a leader or as a public servant, now you will have a task to be able to respond to it. When you look at all the clauses that the president returned, in our view, they could be basic, but they are very tight. Take even about clause 5, for instance, where the president was recommending that remove something like authority and replace, like tightening the EACC.
Yes.
At some point they said any other bodies can be able to
Yes.
to participate. But then now we are moving the aspects of corruption into this particular body that actually belongs to, that we don't water it down and just give any other institutions to be able to participate in matters of this anti-corruption. Something else that also captured my attention, for instance, is the declaration of your wealth. That even now, my son who is not 18 years old, I would be able to declare if there's anything I've been able to put to him in whatever manner, whether there's a trust or something, I should be able to always declare about the same. And in fact, there is also the aspect that, that captured my attention, that, very reasonable proposals that the president was able to return on the amounts of what you should be able to declare every end of, 25% of the increase of your wealth. You should be able to now explain that increment of wealth. Take even case scenarios, very simple things, like, for instance, the giftings that we are always given when we attend functions. A time has come that we need to have a register of those things, because sometimes you are given some of these giftings with the intent to be able to influence you in one way or the other. Some of those things now, they are indicating that you need to be able to declare. Over time, we are putting laws that over time, it will prick the conscience of every Kenyan, especially those of us that are in positions of influence. That look, when you're in those positions of influence, then be conscious enough to know you are not supposed to do this, that, or the other. There are so many of them, the raft of them, the 12 of them. In our view as Parliament, of course, we've been able to pass. We still hope that Senate will be able to do the honorable thing.
You're right.
And follow suit what the president is doing, because in ourselves, we want to support the president to be able to fight corruption. And not even the president, we are doing it as Kenyans, because we want our country that every tax that is collected does not come again and end up in the pockets of those that are in position of influence, just because you are able to influence that, because you are a public servant, you are a senior in whatever arm of government. So in our view, it's still urging the Senate that let them do what they think is really right.
Senior counsel, were you part of the lawyers that mutilated this particular conflict of interest as it came from the National Assembly?
Oh, I sit here and sympathize with this country. So we are on this show telling Kenyans that, hallelujah, once we pass conflict of interest law, there will be no corruption. Kenya will now be ranked number 1 as the least corrupt country. We are living a lie.
But
2 weeks ago, simple things. You have a law that says you can't walk to a bank and withdraw over 1 million. It's in the statutes, even as we speak today. Our deputy president comes to Kisii, goes to Embu, goes to where? Carrying bags of money. That simple law, if you started by just implementing that law, telling us, I've come here with 50 million, I withdrew this money from this bank account, this is my source, okay? I believe if UDA wants to lead in that war of corruption, start from there. But you have created that law, you are telling Kenyans that nobody should walk to the account and withdraw 1 million unless you explain blah, blah, blah. If I challenged my colleague here, Honorable Kitur, Can you invite the people who attend Harambee today to come and say, I was in this Harambee, I donated this much, it came from this account, this is the source of my money? Nobody will be on this show here. All these offenses that have been read to you, I can even ask him to Google Leadership and Integrity Act, passed in 2012, Section 16. Issues of conflict are listed there. You, your spouse, a company of interest, agent. It's there. Has anybody been taken to court and charged? Yes. Convicted by the courts? Yes. But then, the problem we have in this country, Dibal, is that we have never had the political will to fight corruption. I've been in this corruption field. We are the only country in the world that has legislated and put in the Constitution, Chapter 6, to fight corruption. The only country in the world. When I was in EACC in 2011, I was challenged. I was told by the chair of the committee, Justice and Legal Affairs, then Abdi Kadir, to name any country in the world that has put issues of anti-corruption in the Constitution. There was none. And we were told, now that this has been put here, leadership and integrity, there will never be corruption in Kenya. In 2003, Justice Ringera was asked, give us the country that is least corrupt in the world. He was told Singapore. He was told walk to Singapore, lift that legislation, bring it to Kenya. Look for a country in Africa that has been very successful in fighting corruption. He was told go to Botswana. When he came back, he was told now enact the law. We created the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act of 2003. Okay? And we said now we have the best legislation in the world. Copied from Singapore, blended with what is in Botswana. We put it in our statutes. Has corruption increased or decreased? Yes. It has increased. Then they say now that we have Chapter 6, let us pass the Leadership and Integrity Act. All these offenses, what you have told us about declaring personal interests where you are conflicted on the floor, it's in the statutes, my friend, Honorable Kitur. It's there. What is happening is we are lifting it from the Public Officer Ethics Act and putting it in the conflict of interest, saying we want a new title that will scare people. Issues you have mentioned of conflict, it is there in Section 16 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. It's there. Rwanda is fighting corruption using least harsh laws, but it's one of the least corrupt countries in Africa. It doesn't have all these laws. You Google, you will not see a conflict of interest law in Rwanda. They are using the equivalent of our Procurement Act to fight corruption. This thing you are saying you want ethics and corruption to be in charge of conflict of interest. In Rwanda, Dibal, they are using Office of Ombudsman, but very effective. Why? Because Kagame does not condone corruption. You go to the Gambia, they are using the Ombudsman in Gambia. Yeah. But the problem we have in this country is that we always want to look for scapegoats. When maybe a World Bank, IMF comes here and tells you now, before we lend you your corruption index, you are number 131 out of 180. What can you do to improve this? Technocrats tell them, we can pass better laws to fight this, but nothing will happen. Unless we change our morals, our ethos, this is a game of cards.
All right.
You're just moving one card here to the other. So why, Dibal, ask me this. Why are you moving offenses from the Public Officer Ethics Act, the Ethics and Corruption Act, Leadership and Integrity, just picking the way they are? And then you plant them in another law and say, now, we have created a conflict of interest law. What have you changed?
So it's a conflict. It's a melange of other
lifted. What
acts.
We need, I'm telling you, what we need, and I want to tell Kenyans, what we need, Dibal, is political goodwill. People are charged in court. If they are politically correct, they are.
Okay.
The following day,
Thank you.
you will find the DPP will come in.
Thank you.
Put a note.
Allow me to butt in.
And that person is set free.
Thank you.
I'm telling you.
Let me drop in before I come
If
to you.
we speak,
Shakil Shabir.
Final point, Debal. If we want to fight corruption, if we are serious as a country, let us change our behaviors. We in the political class.
Your bad manners.
You walk tomorrow, I challenge you. Drive from Nairobi, Maimayu, Narok to Kisii. Count the number of roadblocks you'll find on the road. Hide somewhere with a camera and see the number of bribes that are collected. And you'll be told this money is shared to the top. Do you want to tell me that when you pass this law, that corruption will end? What do you say that? You're living a lie.
All right.
Living a lie.
Let me hear from
this
Dr.
law you're
Ika.
being told
Yes.
was discussed by the two houses. Under Article 113, when you create a law and the law is amended by the other house, you create a mediation team under Article 113. I didn't participate, but a mediation team was created representing National Assembly
But they never allowed us
and the
even
Senate.
to participate.
Okay? Just a minute.
No, you never told us.
The
We
two,
asked,
can
we
I
asked
finish?
to be part of that.
Can I
mediation.
finish? I am a lawyer. I don't lie. I say
No,
facts.
lawyers are liars.
These two teams sat, mediated on a bill, and came up with a mediated version. Now, under our constitution, once you come with a mediated version, you send it back to the two houses for concurrence. So that mediated version was sent to National Assembly, and they agreed with the version that was developed by the mediation committee. It was sent to the Senate, and the Senate agreed, after which they forwarded it to the president. Unless, Honorable Shabir, you are not in the House,
I'll tell
and
you
you
why.
didn't acquaint yourself with the process. There is no way that law could have gone to the president after mediation
Can you allow
without coming to the National Assembly, debated, agreed, passed, then forwarded to the president.
Can you allow me to speak?
All right. No. Can I hear from
on this issue? Let's finish it.
We'll be fine. We'll be
Let's
fine.
finish it. Let's
From my
interest
end,
of time.
my
Yes.
end,
Chair,
let me be clear.
Let me finish.
Just a moment.
If passing of that conflict of interest, and I'm saying this to Kenyans, if that is what will make this country to be the least corrupt, I'm waiting for that bill with the memorandum of the president. I'll be the first to vote for it. But I tell you, nothing will change unless we change the political will. Bring it tomorrow. I'll vote for it.
Have some hope. Have some
Yes,
hope.
exactly.
There is
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Can I read for you the laws we have passed
no,
in this
no,
country? Over 8.
Please,
But
this
nothing
is
changed.
where we...
Okay. Could
This
I,
is where the
allow me,
National Assembly
just hold on.
was messed up.
Just touch me a second. Let me just cross over to Honorable Nyikal also to just chime in as well. You were in the House when this particular bill was being steamrolled by the majority leader. I think this is from Kimani Ichung'wah, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. We have it being challenged by the Senate because it is duplicitous of other clauses that we have in the acts at the end of the day. So what is the rhyme of and reason of him coming up with the conflict of interest with all this melange of other acts being, steamrolled into this particular one bill? And as I said, I agree totally. We have so many laws, right? Heading now to 10 in an effort to fight and stanch the flow of corruption in this country. Do we need this bill? Or is this just another waste of time and nothing will discernibly be different with this conflict of interest bill in the first place?
What is happening here is what is happening in the whole country. People speak the same thing, but don't solve the problem. Actually, the president's concerns, actually, when they were passed in the House, actually came late and they had been passed. One thing is actually people don't take a lot of time to look at bills in those. Let me say in the National Assembly. I think it's the same in the Senate.
But
Because
Kimani Ichung'wah should have known better.
I see, because I see late in the day, there are very few people. So when you brought this thing, I said, okay, let me go look at the president reservations. So actually, after we talked and I looked at it and I have a copy of it here, the president reservations are more or less what was in the original bill.
Exactly.
Correct.
to a large extent.
Correct.
But there is also something that is also true, that the original bill was deleting a lot of other bills. So the question that the Senator is also asking is genuine. Why do you delete this bill to just take it somewhere else? So what I'm waiting for, I don't want to get deep in this because I missed of this final point when it was brought, is I'm going to look for the vellum. So what will really, at least will guide me, is I have the original bill. I want to see the vellum because when it comes to mediation, and my colleagues will agree with me, sometimes when after it mediation, when it comes, the truth again, people sometimes say, people agree with the bill even before it comes. And when it comes to the president's reservations, it's a very tough thing because if you want to overturn the president's reservations, you must have at least 233 people in the House to start with. I don't think there were 232 people when this thing was passed. So he's assumed that if you don't have that and you start it, you are almost certain that that bill will pass or it will not discuss. What one would have said is that we don't have 133, it's actually 233. Let's not even start this because one requirement is that if you want to drop it, you must have 233. Now, if you go ahead and discuss it and you have, say, 60 people, your assumption is that either you will stop it midway or it will pass. Many times it passes. So I think that's where the problem is. What I can see from here, my colleagues are right in two ways. One, the vellum is not different. The reservations is not very different from what was in the bill. What I'm waiting for, and I'll do it tomorrow just out of interest, is to look at the vellum. I think I'll get a copy of the vellum. Then we will now see. His point may be that the Senate changes drastically. But if what the Senate changed is just that they didn't see why you are deleting this, so then they removed this. Then again, they also have a point that the law is somewhere. Why are you removing it there and bring it here? So what really we are discussing amongst ourselves here comes back to us. How diligent are we in the House?
In scrutinizing some of it.
In scrutinize, so that if something actually is already existing, why do you want to put it in another law? But being late, let me not say too much, but let me just add, say one last thing. Laws don't change people.
Excellent.
Laws only punish people. And we also know that punishment does not work. Let me just ask you, Debal. I always ask this. Even in my grandfather's time, even in my father's time as a young person, in my grandfather's time, we didn't have jails, we didn't have policemen, we didn't have courts, and people lived relatively peacefully. Now, we have courts, we have policemen, we have stacks of laws. If you go to the senator's office as a lawyer, all these things are there. But people, it's like another thing I'm asking people when they come to me for Harambee for churches. I can count 15 churches around my home, and I ask them, but we are doing these churches, but people seem not to be changing because we are looking at the wrong thing. What is our ethos? What do we believe as a society? What do we want to do? These ones just help.
Yeah.
So on this particular one, and I think even when this law was passed, again, this law was passed at a critical time, and I think there were 3 laws that were passed one afternoon.
Anti-money
laundering. I think anti-money laundering and this one. I remember asking Honorable TJ Ajua, we sat with him and asked him, you guys, you passed 3 laws yesterday. So he said, well, they all passed. So our diligence is the big issue. And then what it has done, you know, the president reservations, in my view, the lawyers are here, they can correct me. It's not that the president makes a law and comes with the proposal of an amendment. The president is to express his or her concern that this law does not address this. It then goes to Parliament. Parliament now must rephrase, amend to take care of the president's consideration. But what has now happened, the president really now legislates. So you see, if you see clause 2, well, he was defining the family. So he was proud. Then you go to clause 5, he was reminding us that if you give one job for 2 authorities, it's not likely to happen because you are giving to TACC, but you are also giving it to a reporting authority. It will not work. If you go to the other one, the president is adding functions of the commission. Now the commission was defined here as the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Again, for me, what one would say, it's really expanding the commission or repeating. And again, so these are legislations. So you may want to, let me tell you, the president didn't do this. The president expressed what he didn't like. Another lawyer, another set of lawyers sat in State House and drafted this, and the president signed.
Yes.
And you know the ball.
And so what we have, let me just finish. We have drafters.
I want to say something before
we now have drafters in State House. So this lawyer, I think, I don't know, but there must be a complete set of lawyers, including these drafters.
Check one thing for me. The concern of the Senate was, you want to delete offenses, okay, where people have already been charged in court under those provisions of the law. And you are not saving those cases or the offenses. So what you are telling Kenyans is that you delete these offenses, then people are in court will be set free because that is no longer law. And you are creating, because you know what the Constitution says, you cannot charge it retrospectively. All those offenses we were saying that they are already covered in statutes. They are active cases in court. Some involving former governors who have been charged in court. You see, it is very clever that the state wants to protect certain people. So you delete those offenses, then those guys will go to court and say, the offense under which I was charged is no longer a crime under that law. It has been deleted. And you can't charge me with a new offense under a new law that was not a crime at that time. So as people who have good interest, we say, since these offenses existing in the Leadership and Integrity and Public Officer Ethics Act, there are people who have been charged in court and there are active cases under those particular sections.
I thought it will be our one-liner. It will be unfair for Shakil Shabir. We'll come to you, because you raise a very important question, because I think also I was orienting my thoughts towards that, because we've seen a lot of cases of governors, especially just lately with Governor Natembeya, with the conflict of interest,
what
so
will
to
happen
speak.
to those cases?
Yes. No. So that the question that is being also or hanging on the rafters of many Kenyans' mind is the fact that will this law make any discernible difference, even to avoid all these dramas that we normally see at the end of the day, adding to the litany of laws that we have in this country, right? Did you do your due diligence, even from the African perspective that you wrote to the president, and you're very happy that yes, the memorandum is here, but as we've just established here, there's nothing dramatically different with this particular law with other legislations that we do have. Is this purely, backing the wrong tree and a pure waste of time?
Okay. Firstly, no law is retrospective. So even if people have been charged under that law that is now being deleted, will have to continue to be answered, that law. I'm not a lawyer. But let's go on the other issue. I'm not a lawyer.
No longer been that statute. So how do you continue prosecuting?
No, please.
Okay, let him finish his train of thought.
Give me some time. When we said, and he said, it went to the mediation committee. APNAC wrote both to the leaders of Senate and the leaders of National Assembly, saying that we wish to be included or allowed to take part in that mediation. Both JLAC, the chairman of JLAC in National Assembly, and the Senate said no. Now you see, it does not mean that because, APNAC is not Shakil Ahmed, is not him. We have a group of people who have put their minds down. What you see in the presidential, it has not just come out of it from the blue. And it's not that his experts have also come out of it the blue. The situation is certain issues were raised not only by APNAC, by others. Whether it was in a mediation committee, whether it was in NADCO, whatever. There were issues raised. I see no reason whatsoever that if it is, and I explained to you, we're grey listed and we're blacklisted. These guys of Senate, they don't care a damn. They did not care that we are grey listed. And now look, sometimes when you're in an international forum, even if you think you are cleverer than everybody else, just sangine ka policy, get the interest of the state done first. When we are grey listed by FATF, when you're grey listed by UNCAC, you're grey listed by these people, IMF, all the financial, it has a very huge financial implications. Now you are not going to go and argue with those guys there that there's another law, there's this. We do not think we have been doing hard enough on this one. That was our complaint. We said, if that's the case, let us use that ourselves. Let us do our laundry ourselves. No, they did not want to do that. Now, they would rather that we had financial isolation. They would rather that illicit financial flows were not, which were restricting our investors' confidence. They would rather, they didn't care. They didn't care. And we didn't care. And when it came to the National Assembly, the majority leader either forgot what he was doing, or somebody told, and he decided that they were going to pass it and fast track it. Fast track that. We wrote to these people. They fast tracked. I am today, me, as a person, I'm happy that the president has sent those things back and vetoed it. Today, the parliament, it was presented, and parliament did not accepted the reservations of the president, accepted. So do what you want to do, Senate. We have accepted. Now the situation that we're coming to, if you may give me just 2 more minutes, please.
I need to take a short break. Can I circle back with you and Bernard and of course Okongo Mogini, if you may, right? We need to pay our bills as well. We'll take a short break. When we continue, or we circle back, we'll continue with the conversation, looking keenly on this conflict of interest bill and what it does really portend. Don't go away.